You know, a lot of guys say, why is it that all democratic cities are a disaster? Which they are. You can look it up. Every left-wing controlled city in the United States, at any rate, is a complete mess. And the weird thing is that these perennial messes, they keep on getting worse on the one hand, and they keep on being led by Democrats or left-wing politicians at any rate. Why is that? Why is it that it seems as if everything that the left touches turns to shit? It's very obvious, and it's very deliberate. The left actively tries to make things worse. You see, because the left wing needs for things to get worse, because that's how they get power. By the way, I'm doing this on Patreon because, I realize that if I were to do this video on my free YouTube channel, just the fact that it's touching on politics and the fact that left-wing parties are so rotten to the core would potentially lead me to get deplatformed there. So that's why this is here, okay? Anyway, to go back to the issue, why is it? Why is it that everything that the left touches turns to shit? And it's very simple, because you see, you have to understand the motivation of the people who join a right-wing party and a left-wing party. Yeah, I mean, why does somebody join a conservative party? Think of the word conservative. You want to conserve. Somebody joins a conservative party, and what do they want? Do they want change? No. They want things just as they are, because things as they are doing very well for them. Yeah, I mean, business people who are doing well, who are making money hand over fist, do you think that they want to change anything? No, of course not. They want things to be steady as she goes, because in that stability, they are making money. They are improving their lives. What about families? People with small children, do they want a lot of change? No, of course not. A man, a family man, and his wife, who, if she's got any sense to her brains, right? They want things to be steady. Why? So that they can raise children in a very steady and predictable environment. They don't really care if the environment is that great. I mean, if it's above a baseline, they're fine. What they really want is stability. And so you have business people, you have family people who are conservative. Now just turn that around. Who is it that wants change? Who wants change above everything else? Obviously, someone who is dissatisfied with the status quo. Yeah, think about it. See, if you're unhappy with the way things are in your society, howsoever they may be, you want change. You don't want things to continue as they are. No, because they're not good for you. They might be good for that businessman. They might be good for those families over there. But for you, they suck. So you want change. And what does a left-wing party promise? Change. That's the whole point of them. Progressive parties, left-wing parties, call them what you will. They are the parties of change. Whereas conservative parties, right-wing parties, again, call them what you will, they are the parties of stability, of sameness. If you're unhappy with the current situation in your society, perhaps you're just unhappy with your own life, and you project it out onto the society. The society might be hunky-dory, but you're so unhappy with your life that you say, oh, it's society's fault, not mine. Okay, so those people, they're going to join the left-wing party because they're going to want change. And the left-wing party will embody that change and will seek that societal change. But this doesn't quite explain why everything that left-wing parties touch turns to shit, now does it? And to understand that, you have to understand the idea of change and the idea of shittiness. You're living in a city, and it's a shitty city. I mean, like the services suck, this sucks, that sucks, everything sucks. Potholes everywhere, crime, blah, blah, right? I mean, it's a crappy city, a shitty city, right? Now, you want to change that now, don't you? Of course you do. So who do you vote for? For the guy who's telling you that it's going to change. For the left-wing guy. And does it change? No, it's still shitty. But he tells you, he propagandizes to you that it will change. Or perhaps the one left-wing candidate who's in office for a while, keeps on having a shitty city, although he himself lives very well, by the way. But it's a shitty city, it's a shitty state, it's a shitty country, right? He's voted out of office for this other guy, this other left-wing guy who promises change. And does he bring change? No, of course he's not going to bring change. Why? Because if he improves the situation, you're not going to vote for the left-wing parties now, are you? You're not going to vote for the left-wing candidate. You're not going to vote for the guy who brought the change. So you see how pernicious the situation is, huh? You see the cycle, the vicious cycle. Left-wing candidate is elected to office. He does nothing, or in fact, says a lot of things that he's going to change things and changes them for the worse. The city goes down the tubes, and what happens? He gets voted out for another left-wing candidate, another candidate promising change. And what happens with that second candidate, that second politician who gets voted in? He doesn't change anything, or he mixes things up, pretends to change, maybe actually does things, but the things that he does make things worse. And he knows it. See, that's the thing, that's the pernicious problem. See, the left-wing parties know that they cannot solve a problem, because if they solve a problem, then they cease to have people who vote for them. That's why racism cannot end in America. No, it cannot end. I mean, screw the fact that most people in the United States are not racist. I mean, I'm talking the vast majority of people. I've lived in the United States. Yeah, I went to public school in the United States. I grew up in the States. I went to college in the States. The vast majority of people in the United States are not racist. I know this for a fact because the vast majority of people that I've ever met in the United States or who are American are not racist. In fact, I've never met any racists since, I would say, 1980, 81, The guy who sold us our house when we were living in Miami, he was kind of racist. He didn't like the fact that he was selling his house to Latinos. And he made no bones about showing it, right? And that's the last racist guy I ever met. That was 40 fucking years ago, for crying out loud, huh? Americans are not racist, but the left-wing parties need to keep on insisting that America is racist, because that way, if it has something horrible that has to be changed, they get voted in. They win the elections. Now, of course, it doesn't matter that this judgment that America is racist has incredibly detrimental effects to the United States. It doesn't matter because it gets those progressive politicians elected. That's what they want. They want power. They want to get elected. They don't want to fix anything. See? On the contrary, if they fix the problem, then there's no justification for them to remain in office, and they get voted out. They get voted out for who? For the conservative candidate, the one who wants to keep things tidy and straight and nice. See? Yeah. And that's the problem. And this has always been the problem with left-wing candidates. See? It was only Ronald Reagan in 1980 who broke this death grip that left-wing parties had on the United States. See? Because the left-wing parties were so awful. It was such a disaster that finally people just threw in the towel and said, let's fuck it. Let's elect this actor and see if he can do better. And he did. Of course he did. And what happened after that? The Democrats, the left-wing parties couldn't get elected. They couldn't get arrested. Nobody wanted them. Mondale, Dukakis. Bill Clinton did not win the election in 1992. He didn't. He got a plurality of votes. If Ross Perot hadn't been running, it would have been another Republican president, George H.W. Bush. Yeah, that's the truth. Bill Clinton only got elected in 92 because of the plurality and because he promised up and down to everybody that he wasn't going to fucking change shit. And the same thing happened in the UK with Tony Blair. Tony Blair got elected to New Labour because basically he promised that he wasn't going to change shit that Margaret Thatcher had done. See? And that's the truth of the matter. But see, now, over these ensuing decades, with all these NGOs and all this left-wing propaganda bullshit that's focused on race. Race is the dividing issue, the wedge that breaks apart the electorate. In the United States, in the UK, everywhere in the Western democracies, it's all about race, because that's the issue that the left-wing parties lighted on, like flies on shit. And they are using that to make our lives miserable, to turn our societies into shit. And so what's going to happen is real easy. Say, you got Biden, right? And all of a sudden in 4 months, there are all kinds of crises. There's the border crises, there's the gasoline prices, the infrastructure crisis, all kinds of fucking crises are popping up, okay? Now, what the fuck you think? That it's going to get fixed? No, it's not going to get fixed. It's going to get worse, a lot worse. And so what's going to happen is that there are going to be more and more left-wing politicians promising to solve things, and they're not going to solve fucking shit. They don't want to solve it. The left wing needs for things to be as shitty as possible. That's how they hold on to power. Look at California, for crying out loud. California has always been the bleeding edge of the United States. It's always been the vanguard. And look at California. It's a shithole. Why? Because California was doing great for decades. And then left-wing politicians came in, starting with Jerry Brown. I remember Jerry Brown in his first term as governor. He was a fucking disaster. And little by little, things started going to shit. Little by little, every new Democrat politician would say, oh yeah, things are shitty, but we'll change it. Jerry Brown, Gray Davis, now we've got Gavin Newsom. All these fuckers, they all pull it down. They need to pull it down. Now, this whole thing would be kind of funny if you didn't see where this is going, especially now in our high-tech society, with all this technology, computers, communications, all the rest of this shit. It's slowly but irrevocably sliding into totalitarianism. They've been using this medical crisis of the so-called pandemic, which I bought hook, line, and sinker when it started, but then I realized it wasn't that bad. It was terrible for a certain demographic, elderly people, but for the vast majority of people, it was insignificant. I probably had it back in March. But the fact of the matter is, see, these people, these left-wing politicians, use this pandemic to create a state of constant crisis. Constant crisis, constant shittiness. And they keep dangling. They're dangling the promise that they're going to fix it. They keep dangling this notion that they can fix it, but of course they can't fix it, not because they can't, but because they don't want to, because they know that fixing the problems is how they lose power, and power is all they care about. So there you have it. That's why the left needs things to be shitty. That's why the left needs things to be horrible, and they are not going to fix anything. You watch. You watch how the West just slowly sunsets. The fact is, it's already sunsetting. It's just a lot of people are starting to notice. So you should too.